The first type of government intervention that we're going to look at is the imposition of indirect taxes. Again, to review, an indirect tax is placed onto a product and that tax is paid when the product is bought, when it is consumed. VAT is a common example of this in most of the world. And in fact, it looks a little bit, it's maybe a little bit harder to see than sales tax, like what is used in the United States. So for example, when you buy something in South Africa or in Europe or someplace like that, the VAT, value added tax, is already incorporated into the price of the product. So if you end up paying 20 euro, a portion of that is VAT, but if it says 20 euro when you buy it, that's what you're going to pay at the register. Whereas in the United States, if you see a product and it's being sold for $20, when you take it to the cash register, they will add the sales tax after the fact. So they'll say, okay, well, it's $20 plus 8%, so it's going to be $21.60. In either case, the effect of this is to make the price of the good higher. You might not see it happen here, but without the VAT, of course, they would be selling it for a lower price. So there's no real sense in talking about one of these as being better than the other, at least not in this conversation. The effect of both is to raise the price of the good. Something you will struggle with, this tends to be difficult for many students, is to think about an indirect tax shifting the supply curve. Most people think that it should shift the demand curve, that it should make demand different because the price is higher. But you'll notice, since we're saying that the price is higher, well, the demand curve already is going to deal with that. In fact, if you read down here, when we set up the demand curve, the existing demand curve includes all prices. So raising price cannot create a new demand curve. We see that here, that the price is 8, 9, 10, 11, and we see quantity demanded falls. It doesn't matter why price changed. If price went from 10 to 11 because you have to pay your workers more, as a consumer, a demander, all I care about is that the price is now 11. So I'm going to respond by buying less. So it doesn't matter if it went from 10 to 11 because, again, you pay your workers more, because we're going to talk about pizza, if the price of dough goes up, or if there's a tax on the product. In all those cases, the price is what is changing, and I'm going to respond by decreasing my quantity demanded. Okay, so let's look, because again, that's where we're going, but let's maybe explain why this is true. Let's look if you're going to buy a pizza, and we're going to use pounds today. And we're going to buy it without a tax, no tax in place. You don't think about it when you buy a pizza. You just think, I want a pizza, so I'm going to buy one. But you are paying for all the costs that it takes to make that pizza. So if we took this 10 pounds and broke it up, maybe 4 pounds would go to pay the people who make the pizza. And even further back on the supply chain, maybe some of this 4 pounds would go to pay for the people who helped to grow the wheat that was turned into flour. The point is that cost of labor is part of the cost of the pizza. Likewise, the amount of land, the rent they pay to rent the pizza shop, or the cost of the pizza or the pepperoni or the cheese or whatever it might be, all that's going to be part of the land cost. And maybe, so we've got 4 plus 3, so there's $7 pounds of the cost of our pizza so far. Maybe $1 is going to go to capital and $2 is going to go to entrepreneurship. It's important to not forget this. Somebody is the entrepreneur. Somebody owns the pizza company, the pizza store, and they want to make a profit. There would be no reason to own and run a pizza store if no profit was being created. So we have to pay the entrepreneur too, just like we pay our other factors of production. Now listen. When you pay $10 for a pizza, you don't take your $10, run down to the store, and hand $4 to the person making the pizza, and hand $3 to the person who owns the land that the store is on, etc., etc. You just pay the $10, 10 pounds. So we can't think about the consumer is only thinking about the product itself and the price of the product, not thinking about what the money is going towards. If we put a tax on here, so now we've got a tax of £1 per pizza, well, that logic doesn't change. The price has gone up from £10 to £11. We're still paying the same to labor, entrepreneurship, capital, and land, but now we have to pay the tax man too. And you might go, well, wait a minute, it is the demander paying the tax because they're paying the increased price. That's no more true than saying that I, as a pizza consumer, am paying the labor to make the pizza. I don't sign their paychecks. I also don't send this dollar or this pound to the government. So we have to see that additional pound becomes a cost of producing the pizza. In fact, we can say that the retail price comprises all the costs of the production of that product. So if tax increases price, it must be seen as a cost. When we look at a diagram, what we can see, if we start with this original supply curve that I have graphed here, so it's QS equals P is our formula, 0 equals 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, on up and up, and you can see that graphed over here. And again, we're going to add a specific tax to the product that we're looking at here. What we need to think then is that each of these prices is going to go up by, in this case, $1. So, if the price tag of the product says $5, we've got 3 different people who are going to look at that price tag in a different way. The consumer is going to see that price tag and see it as $5. It's going to cost me $5 to get this product. The government's going to see this price tag and think, every time one of those gets sold, I get $1. So they're going to see this price tag and see $1 of it. That means there's only $4 left for the producer. By the way, notice we got C for consumer, G for government, and P for producer. I know, pretty clever, right? What's going to happen with this then? What's really important is how the producer is seeing it. We're talking about supply, and remember, supply is reliant on the supplier's desire and their ability. And their ability is very much reflected in the amount of total revenue they're going to get. So back to the original supply curve for a second, when the price is 1, their total revenue is going to be 1 times 1. For them to be motivated to produce 2, they need a total revenue of 4, 2 times 2. So again, this is linked to the law of supply that as price goes up, the suppliers are going to be more and more willing to produce more and more of this good. Let's go back to seeing how the producers see this price. If they see the price of 5 as 4, what does the supply schedule say that they're going to do? Well, it says that they're going to supply 4, right? The consumer might see this as 5, but because $1 goes to the government, the producer is only seeing it as 4, therefore they're going to respond by making 4. The original supply curve tells us that. If they're getting 4, they're only going to produce 4, i.e. they need total revenue of 16 to produce 4. Otherwise, we could also say if their total revenue is only 16, they're not willing to produce 5. Look how much total revenue they need to produce 5. They need 25. If we sold 4 at the price of 5, that would only be total revenue of 20. Therefore, they're not going to do that. Okay? So what we can do is we can say, well, to the producer, 5 is really 4, so the price with tax is this price down here to the producer. So if the price is 5, to the producer it's 4, so they'll only produce 4. If the price is 4, to the producer it's only 3, so they'll only produce 3. If it's 3, they'll only produce 2, 1, and 0. We can then go regraph this. So at a price of 5, they're going to produce 4. At a price of 4, they're going to produce 3. At a price of 3, they're going to produce 2. So on and so forth. So what we'll see is that the supply curve is going to shift up, and the amount it shifts up, we're going to call this supply with tax. It's going to shift up, and it's going to shift up by the value of the tax. So you'll notice that every point here, it's shifted up by a value of 1.